Welcome to episode 2 of the Weekly Howl with me, Eddie from Eddie and the Wolves, and my beautiful assistant, Phil Conlon.
Assistant,
yeah.
Assistant.
Co-host.
I bring you in stuff, yeah?
Yeah. Cool. Today we're going to talk about some social media stuff. But before we do, I would like to say we are not experts in the social media realm. Yeah. We only know what we've learned along the way. And this is not this isn't a how-to guide. And it's not a try this trick.
This is more of a comparison from someone who's done it the old school way, as opposed to someone who's kind of maybe missed that a little bit and is totally internet, social media savvy, namely you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've grown up with it. I've been around it for forever.
Yeah. Whereas,
sort of, but
Whereas I started off, there was no internet. There was no, the furthest reach you could get was actually doing a proper gig, or going to see a gig, reading about a band in a music magazine, Kerrang, Metal Hammer, whatever it may be at the time, Hit Parade, or even, that's how we found out about bands and how we learned about new music.
So primary research, basically. You'd have to go and find out the info.
Oh, yeah. You just couldn't lift your phone and go to Spotify or go to the Facebook or go to whatever it may be these days.
You could just pull up a list. I had a list actually somewhere when I worked in Leicester. I had a list and it was all the bands in Leicester and all the artists in Leicester, genre, how much they charged, how many people were in the band and everything like that. Just a great big list. And it was shared, between everyone.
Yeah, there was a few years ago. I don't know if they still have it, but a few years ago, the Musicians Union had a guidebook and it had all the bands, from A to Z that were.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how you find out about bands at our level. We're not talking about Iron Maiden and bands like that. We're talking our level bands. That's how you find out about those bands. Oh, there's a band called XYZ. We didn't know there was a band called that. Whatever. But that's how you find out about bands, and that's primarily how you learned about the music business as well, through trial and error and through reading magazines and reading books. And, if you were lucky enough and fortunate enough to make contact with, maybe a promoter or a music manager, or sometimes, and more often than not, a lot of knowledge would have been gained from music journalists, if that makes sense. Because they've been around a lot of those type of, bands, promoters, agents, blah, 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 music journalists in the magazines. They were always, kind of a go-to if you're trying to learn something or find out something about, the workings of the industry.
Would you say that's still prevalent now? Can you still?
Within some journalists, yeah. Maybe in me, I would say a lot of the old school journalists would have a lot of knowledge of how things work, how they used to work. Maybe not necessarily how they work now, but they'd be pretty clued in of how things are moving.
10 years ago.
It's their job to keep on top of stuff.
Well, this is right, yeah. 10 years ago, it was all about blogs, wasn't it? I mean, you want to be on blogs and...
Well, it's still to that, blogs, to me, these days are like playlists, So, I think a big thing among kids' bands and bands that are younger bands is, their music on Spotify and getting on the playlists on Spotify seems to be a key for a lot of younger bands.
Yeah. Let's rewind back to... Back to the late 90s, early 2000s .com boom. Amazon's still a bookstore. And, well, that's interesting. We're talking about Web 1. I mean, right now, we're just switching over to Web 3. We'll talk about it in a bit, but we're in Web 1.
All right.
And Web 1 was, I remember it briefly.
Okay.
But it was...
What do you remember, though? What do you remember?
Well, you'd log on and you would see information. You couldn't share information unless it was on a chat room or a forum or something like that.
Yeah.
You couldn't directly share information to followers. That's web. That's sort of the web we've been in for the last 10, 13 years or something.
Okay.
So you log on, all you can do is you can have a website, but most people didn't really know how to have a very good website or what a website meant to them.
Yes.
So how did you create?
We, at the time, the band I was in at that point was $1 Million Reload. It was a pretty decent band. It was a good band. It was on the live scene. It was, successful enough. So a couple of the guys within the band were pretty clued in when it came to that type of technology. So one of the guys, Andy, was quite good. He was able to build a website for the band.
Right. So he had a website.
Yeah. So he had kind of a background in computer technology through his own work and stuff. So he was able to put a website together for the band that was pretty nifty looking, and it was pretty good. And it was kind of like a business card.
Yeah.
That's the way we looked at it was a business card. But then it probably parallel to that, MySpace and Bebo and those early infancies of music sharing and music accessibility.
MySpace was a big one, wasn't it?
It was pretty big for a short period, for a short window of time. MySpace was huge. Everybody, bands were found. Record labels, when record labels meant something at that point.
Yeah.
Record label A&R people would have been recommended about them, and they would chat. The first go-to tool was MySpace. How many followers? How many listeners? Listeners more than anything, because followers could always be manipulated, but actual physical listens to songs.
Yeah, because you could upload your songs to it, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could. It was an early infancy of a business card as well. They give you tour dates, those photographs of the band. How did the band look? Your music. I think you could upload like 4 songs onto the little player.
Yeah.
I think you could upload a couple of videos, things like that. So MySpace. I'm not saying it was a game changer, but it was a window into what was to come. This was even before like YouTube was a big thing. YouTube had been around, but YouTube wasn't really harnessed by musicians in that way at that point.
Do you know what YouTube started as?
I don't know. Something to see cats doing funny things?
No, I think originally it was a video dating app. Where you sit in front of the camera like, "Hi, my name's Colin, and I'm a 28 attractive male who walks in the park." I'm pretty sure it started as one of those things.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Cool. So YouTube, it was one of those things that was kind of told us by our manager at the point you need to have songs on YouTube.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. And YouTube was a good tool. All of the things that led further and further down the line to where we're at now was an outreach for all bands. It's common sense. Someone in Australia could click on you by accident.
Yeah.
Now, whereas 10, 15 years ago, they probably would have had to look for you. They would have probably had to look for Eddie and the Wolves or $1 Million Blackwater, whatever it may be. They would have had to physically look for. Whereas now, you can end up, well, this person likes this, you might like this, et cetera, and it just automatically comes and you click on it because that's what you do.
Yeah.
You click on, you listen, and you go, I might like that.
YouTube back then sort of killed MTV, didn't it? Because you could easily...
Listen. I'm honest, okay? And this is how I look at it. And a lot of people my age look at it like this. The internet fucked the industry. Really did. Because I'll explain to you why. In my opinion, explain to you why. So beforehand, a musician, like for instance, you or I or whoever it may be, will go into the studio, would pay a certain amount of money to get a product and get a few songs recorded. Okay. So that would have cost you, we'll just say for argument's sake, £1,000. I know that's unrealistic, but we'll say £1,000. Okay. So that's £1,000 of your own money that you had to invest in for your recording. Okay. That you probably couldn't afford. So the only way you were going to get that money back again was to physically sell CDs, go out and do shows, sell merchandise, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And that was great because just slightly before my time, and even in my time back in the day, these record labels would come along and say, well, I really like your songs and, we want you to record a full album and here's 50 grand and here's a producer and here's this, and don't worry about that money. That money is recoupable. We'll take that off. We'll come to an agreement, we'll cut it. We give you 30% of your income, of the income of the sales, and we take the 70% until that's recouped, and then the royalty dropped down and you'll still make money, blah, blah, blah. So you didn't really worry about it. There was always an income of money.
Well, you didn't worry because you were told to not worry about it.
Well, basically, yeah, you were told not to worry about it, and money was everywhere. It was everywhere, and if you were lucky enough to get a record deal, you got a lot of money thrown at your band, and it was awesome. You were, you're buying new guitars, you were drinking, you were doing whatever you want, blah, blah, blah.
Interest rates were cheap and houses were cheap. And
yeah, all that kind of shit. But the internet came along, and then there was a new breed of people who basically, they were able to access money or access bands, access music for pretty much free. Napster being the main culprit, So it was expected. People didn't want to pay for music, which left the artist in an awful position because it was their livelihood. For a lot of people, it was their livelihood. So there was no real income because people were just sharing their music online through Napster in the beginning, and there was no money. for the people who are actually making the music. And people become very self-entitled, saying, "Well, I don't want to pay for fucking songs. I want it for free." And kind of snowballed into a whole big thing.
Yeah, I'm going to rebuttal this because I know a lot of people of your generation think that. They sort of think, the internet killed the music scene, whatever. Before we were sharing music online, we were going to concerts and sharing tapes. People were just, like handing each other tapes and stuff like that for free, The real problem that happened when the internet started was the industry didn't react quick enough. And
that's a cop-out.
And they've never reacted quick enough. When they did react, they reacted on the offense and they started suing everyone, suing Napster and LimeWire and all these digital freedom agencies that were giving away music for free. What they should have done instead was probably created their own either Spotify or way of selling albums online properly and made it more enticing than LimeWire and Napster and things like that. Well, they're just, they've got the resources to make a website. You make a really decent website that's got the songs, but if you download this song, you might be in a chance to win gig tickets or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you said,
that's called iTunes.
Yeah, but Apple made iTunes.
Yeah, but Apple's not a record label as such.
No, they're not. Apple dominated the music industry by making iTunes when they weren't allowed to.
No, it's Spotify. Spotify dominates everything.
But if the record labels had done it then,
it wouldn't have made any difference.
You think? I don't agree.
No, I firmly believe. Listen, I'm not going to paint the record labels to be the great, and they're not the great and saviors of anything at all. In fact, a lot of the record labels were sharks, and screwed a lot of people out of money, a lot of bands out of money because they basically owned their catalog of music.
Well, look at what's happening with Taylor Swift at the minute.
Yeah, well, like the Beatles didn't even own their own music for a long time. But the problem in my eyes was, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what business model you have as far as Spotify or Napster or a record label or whatever. People these days, for the good or for the bad, don't want to pay for music the way they used to pay for it. Now, having said that, there's a lot of people of my age, over 35, in their 40s, whatever, who still, put value on a physical CD, put value on, I get gratification for actually buying a physical CD or a vinyl or whatever. Whereas younger people, I'm not pointing the finger at you or your demographic, but a lot of younger people just don't want to pay. All their music is on an iPod. All their music is on Spotify that they access on their phone. They don't have CDs.
iPod. It's on an iPod, is it?
Yeah, well, an iPhone, whatever. But, they don't have CDs. They don't have vinyls. I know friends of mine who've got thousands of vinyls, thousands of CDs. How many CDs do you have on your own?
About 8, and they're the ones I've worked on. You see up here? Here on this shelf, there's probably 10 CDs, and they're records that I've recorded and produced where someone's given me.
If I come into you tomorrow and say, "Oh, I've heard this great band in London, they're called whatever," how would you access that money in music? Would you go to, would you go to HMV to buy the CD? No. You go to your phone straight away. You go, "Oh, hold on," and you would have the band found in less than 30 seconds. You'd play a sample. If you liked it, you would download the song. You know what I mean? Whereas back in my day, I give you a perfect example. Okay, so this is circa 1989. Okay, so a friend of mine, or a friend of ours, when we were kids running around, come with this little tape thing, put it in this tape player, and this noise come out of the thing, and we're, "What the fuck is that? Who is that band? What is that? What is this music?" It was Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses. We hadn't heard anything like that before, right? Now, he was the only one that had the physical music of it, right? He was fortunate enough that he had a double tape player, and he taped a couple of copies for us. Now, you're going to say, "Well, that's the same as you downloading music now for free." No, because the thing about it was, we all waited. We went to the local record store and ordered. It was tapes and vinyls at that point. There was no such thing as CDs, and every one of us ordered, Appetite for Destruction, right? And then we maybe the following week went in to the music shop and we bought Metal Hammer, and we saw a picture of Guns N' Roses. And we wanted more, and we wanted more, and that spread. It was word of mouth spread, and everyone was waiting for tour dates. And Guns N' Roses never played in Ireland, not until '92. I mean, if they come to the UK, they played, Hammersmith Apollo, and the Little Angels, all these bands, and that's how we discovered bands. And that's how we got their music. It cost us whatever it was at that point, if you could buy a tape. But now, like I say, if someone said to you, "Well, is this that the other band?" You just lift your phone straight away. It wouldn't cost you anything.
You say that, but the phone isn't free. If you've got Spotify, it's £10 a month, which
£10 a month.
Yeah, which you hope is paying artists. And I mean, come on, you don't feel bad for the filmmakers on Netflix, paying £5 a month. £5 a month. Do you know how much films cost to make? 200 million.
But the difference is Netflix pays the production companies 200 million to make those films.
Okay, well, we'll get on to if Spotify's fair or not later.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's move through time a bit. So MySpace, unfortunately, Tom from MySpace sold MySpace.
But just to finish that point about MySpace, it's a double-edged sword, because MySpace allowed your band or your music to get out into the ether, for potentially hundreds of millions of people to actually hear your songs at a click of a button. So that's the upside.
It worked well. There's a few people it worked well for Arctic Monkeys. And it worked.
It worked well for $1 Million. It worked well for a while. Yeah. Also, no, there's no doubt about it. It helped for a while. But if you were trying to make any kind of money out of it to sustain your band, no, it didn't make any money.
So after that, Tom from MySpace sold MySpace, and it went down the pan.
Okay.
And then Zuckerberg starts the Facebook.
The Facebook.
I remember getting it in 2008, I think it was, or maybe 2007. I can't remember what.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling I've had it for about 13 years, which is crazy.
I think $1 Million, our band $1 Million Reload, I think we just got in on Facebook as it was starting to catch on and kick off.
Yeah.
When it really started to mean something and was a vehicle to really get your band out there. Set aside the financial gains because there was none, but that was the vehicle to get your band out.
What I've found interesting over the lifespan of Facebook is, I remember in the early days how easy it was to promote using Facebook.
Yeah.
You could pin YouTube videos and they would play automatically and things like that. Mm-hmm. You could message everyone who follows you. You could have an event and you could message all of them, the same message and things like that. It's gotten gradually harder and harder to actually use Facebook as a quality promotional tool.
Well,
than it was in the early days. Yeah, it was very easy. It was really easy.
Yeah, I think it's a case of Facebook, because it's a business as well, and it's not that they need the money, but but they're making money from it costs you money to promote your event. It costs you money. You have to sponsor. It's called sponsoring it.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, $10 for a day or 2 days, whatever. So they're making the revenue with sponsorships and blah blah blah. But yes, it is gradually getting more difficult, to promote your band.
I mean, I would have to say, for anyone of our level of band, whether you've got 4,000 or 10,000 fans, I have never made a penny from Facebook.
Well, you say that, but
I've given them lots of pennies.
Yes, you have, but you got to think of it as an investment as well, though. So if you spend 100 quid on promoting your band for an event, for a gig, right, or for a tour, even, for instance, a handful of shows, there's probably, more often than not, there's going to be quite a few people who will come to see the show on the back of actually seeing a reminder that your show's coming up. So they're going to pay whatever it is your ticket price is. They're going to come to your show. They're going to, buy drinks at the bar and hopefully maybe pick up a CD or a T-shirt at the end of the night.
That's the end goal, isn't
it? It kind of levels itself out a bit if you use it in the right way. You can't just expect to put up one post for your tour or a gig and expect your venue to be sold out if you're an unknown band like we are. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But if you put a little bit of money in, and I've seen this in action for myself, I've saw this in action and saw it working for other bands. I know a guy, we know an artist together, we know an artist who spent 500 quid on Facebook alone for 10 shows. And he was unknown. Let's be real. I'm not going to name him because I don't want to embarrass him, but he was pretty much unknown. But he spent 500 quid of his own money out of his own pocket to promote these shows that I think he spent it was 70 quid per show.
Yeah.
It was a constant thing. It was on your feed all the time. It was getting to the point where you're on Facebook, you were going, oh Jesus, not again. But it worked for him because when we went to the shows, they were 70% sold out. And a lot of those people who were going, people did say they went to the show because they saw the advert on Facebook. So he was getting the ticket price, and he was probably, let's just say, 10% of the audience bought a little bit of merch. So he was getting it back that way as well. So it did work, and it does work if you can utilize it well.
Yeah,
can work.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. What I have to say, there's a band called The Hunter, and 5 or 6 years ago, they were taken on by a manager, and I can't remember what the number was, but it was in the thousands, probably in the tens of thousands.
Mm.
And they were just promoting on Facebook all the time. Everything they did was promoted on Facebook solidly. They're a sellout band now. I know someone who was supporting them on their last tour, and they were selling out Rock City and places like that, O2 academies and stuff like that. So all of that initial investment into advertising has obviously paid off now because they can.
And that's where the first time I met you, when we had a brief conversation that night at the bar, when you handed me your CD, the first thing I said to you was, "What is your plan?
What's your plan?" Yeah.
Because you got to have a plan for advertising and promoting your band. It's okay having your product's there. You've got your product. You've got a great CD. You've got a great collection of songs like you have. But if no one hears them, no one gets to hear them. And how are you going to get them to hear? Well, you need to entice people, and advertising on Facebook or whatever it is the way to go, in my opinion. And it's hard to persuade. Let's just say a record label that does that kind of thing, or back in the day would have done that thing. It's hard to persuade a record label to invest in your band if you're not willing to invest in your own band yourself. Meaning, if you're not willing to put your hand in your pocket to spend 500 quid, £1,000 on PR, that's worthwhile, not just willy-nilly, that's targeted and worthwhile. Should you really expect a record label to take a chance on you where they're going to spend thousands of pounds on you? So anyone who puts their hand in their pocket and spends money on proper PR, proper advertising, you got to tip your hat to them and say, at least they're having a go. They're trying. Yeah. They're trying.
And it will show, won't it? It will show on your
always will.
social media.
It always
things
will.
like that.
Yeah.
So a couple of years after Facebook, we get Twitter. Did you ever get into Twitter properly? Or?
Yeah, well, Twitter became too political. It wasn't really a vehicle for music. Yes, you could advertise your band and say, well, we're playing this show and such a day. But Twitter for me was never really...
I've never found it in any way useful for advertising.
Not really. No, I agree. Twitter is more of a, they talk about keyboard warriors. Like Twitter is that is what Twitter is for.
I tell you, I think the main pull of Twitter, I remember in the early days, and I remember someone saying to me, they followed Gordon Ramsay, or something like that. They followed, a celebrity, Ricky Gervais or something like that. Yeah. And thinking, what? They've got an account on this, why is a celebrity got an account? And that was the first kind of why is celebrities taking over a platform, and then you start following Gordon Ramsay and hearing what he has to say, when he's on the toilet or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Twitter's okay, for just flicking through and reading little, strap lines of things, little bits of. Just small little bits, but it's not really it's for me, Twitter now, I can't stay away from it because it's really, really political. It's just too political. And I really can't be bothered with that sort of shit.
It's not worth getting into the argument, is it?
No, either get the vaccine or don't. Easy.
Let's not get political on this show.
No. All I'm going to say is fair play to Australia, and we'll leave it at that.
I remember when in the early days of Twitter, I had a friend who knew how to do Twitter really well.
Yeah.
And she had, like a few thousand followers. Mm. And I'd keep saying, I'd go to sort of like once a month to say, can you just tweet about my band? Or, whatever song. Yeah. I've got a new song. Can you tweet about a new song?
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened on Instagram, where a friend of mine, he was a male model, and he had tens of thousands of followers, maybe even like 100,000 followers. And he was just one of my brother's mates who I'd see in the pub all the time.
Yeah.
And I'd say, can we have a picture together, post this picture and help me promote my music and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was a cool tool.
Yes.
That was using someone else's clout, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for instance, I remember for a brief period of time, there was ways, there was me, I can't remember the way how it worked, but for instance, let's just say, for argument's sake, say you were on Twitter. Say Eddie and the Wolves was on Twitter, and you had like 100 followers, for argument's sake, get 100 followers, right? So you put out a tweet and these 100 people see your tweet or whatever. Maybe you get a couple of retweets and a couple of likes or whatever. But just say, for instance, Lady Gaga, we'll pluck a name. Lady Gaga saw your tweet and liked it. She retweeted that. That you cannot put a price on that.
No. Yeah, that's right.
You just simply cannot put a price of the awareness that it will the awareness that it would raise for Eddie and the Wolves through Lady Gaga or a big time musician that retweets. I found this band Eddie and they're really cool. Check out this song.
And that's because they've got a dedicated fan base who loves music
of hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
You know? And if it's good enough for Lady Gaga, it's good enough for them.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
They've got a country's worth of followers, haven't they?
It would change your life overnight.
Yeah.
You know? Although some of those fans can be very naive. Do you remember the time Kanye West done a record with Paul McCartney? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. And they were saying, "Who's Paul McCartney?"
I know. No, the funny thing about it was being retweeted by Kanye's friends or followers, and they were going, "Oh, Kanye is just going to make this guy Paul. He's going to change his career.
Yeah, make him a mate."
Paul McCartney, you know. So that way, Twitter was funny in that way as well.
And something recently happened of the same ilk where Post Malone did a song with Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
Who's Ozzy Osbourne? Who's this old bloke on his, you know?
That's it. You know? That's the killer thing that, you know, you sit back and you someone tells you about that happened on Twitter and you can't help but have a little chuckle to yourself and go,
yeah.
Aw. You know, you feel like just patting those people in the head and go, "Aw." You know what I mean? Aw. Who's Ozzy Osbourne?
So after Twitter came Instagram.
Instagram's still pretty prevalent right now, though, isn't it?
I would have to say it might be dying its death a little bit.
It might be dying its death, but it's still there or thereabouts.
Yeah, I mean, if it was to suddenly vanish tomorrow, you know, millions of people would lose their livelihood.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, influencers.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. You know, loads of people would, and not just influencers, but people who, you know, small businesses who make those cute little products that sit on your shelf and cost 120 quid.
I think Instagram has been really good for that, though. It's been really good for the small man, you know, where you can't interact with the bigger ones. You know, Twitter was kind of like I said, for me, it was a bit too political, but Instagram, you can't connect with people in a much higher level than you. You know, small little businesses, small little bands can connect with big bands and stuff. And, you know, I think Instagram's got value. In my opinion, it's got
definitely.
value.
I mean, definitely for the last 10 years, it's been, I don't know if it's been 10 years, if it's 10 years old or not, but I seem to remember it being about 10 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's definitely been good to have.
The internet has changed the game, and that's it. It's as simple as that. In all, you know, we're talking about the different platforms. Each platform as we go through changes the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because, I mean, well, you get, all of a sudden, you're not just sending out words, you're just sending out a picture, you know, and you can do a lot. I think you can do a lot more different things with a picture.
Do you know what grind my gears though?
Go on.
So you've got, like, you know, proper ass rock stars and proper big names who've got Instagram accounts and they've got, like, what's this say for argument's sake, 30 million followers, whatever it may be, and they follow 2 people. You know what I mean? That winds me up. It's like, what?
Well, they don't use it to. I mean, I think a lot of the time as well, it's not even them using the Instagram account.
It's probably
it's some 18-year-old girl behind them.
Yeah. Well, you actually can. You know, I remember we had someone in $1 Million was taking care of our social media accounts because we weren't that sure how to use it effectively, whereas they were younger and they did know how to use it effectively. So we, you know, give a person a few quid to run it correctly for us. And it helped. It definitely did. It definitely helped. They knew where to put it and who to connect it with and X, Y, and Z. So it worked. It does work. It does work. You know, as much as it pisses me off to say, it does work.
Yeah.
You know?
There is a thing. I think if someone did have 30 million followers and they just followed you, those 30 million followers would want to know why.
Well, here's the thing. You know, it's kind of Instagram-y and it's kind of Twitter-y. But Axl Rose, like, he's got 10 million followers and he doesn't follow a single person. You know, not one.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, that's either he's not in control of the account.
Oh, he absolutely is, though. He absolutely is.
Then it's probably a beautiful ego lift to him. You know, I don't follow anyone; they all follow me.
Well, what about Lewis? Lewis Hamilton recently unfollowed everybody.
Did he really?
Yeah, after he lost the World Championship. Yeah.
He unfollowed everyone.
I think he was huffing, though, to be
a bit bitter about that.
A little bit huffy.
a sort of family environment where all of your fans can connect to you, and you follow some of your fans, or you follow accounts that can outreach to the fans for you in any way. Then that in turn creates a stronger bond with the people who are coming to your shows and buying your CDs and stuff.
Yes, and that is the key to everything. Is we can have Facebook, we can have Twitter, we can have Instagram, we can have all these accounts, all these platforms to reach other people. But if it's just like a kind of cold, like a distance where you only interact with them when you want to, well, then it's defeating the purpose. The idea is to make it feel like a family, like you say. Is that, every single fan of Eddie and the Wolves, every single person who's a follower of you on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, they want to feel connected to your band. They want to feel kind of ownership in some way. They want it to feel personal, which is a good thing. That's what music's all about, is about connecting people anyway.
That's what they've come to expect now as well.
Yeah, and that's a good expectation. I think that's a good expectation. It's a more personal thing.
Yeah.
Definitely is. So
when Axl Rose doesn't follow anyone.
But Axl's Axl.
Yeah, well, but he's done the thing, hasn't he? And he doesn't have to.
He was there in the beginning. He had his nose to the stone, man. His nose to the stone.
But he doesn't have to connect with anyone. Doesn't have to create a family.
No. He's got millions.
It doesn't matter to him at all.
Yeah. It would be interesting to know how bands would have succeeded or not succeeded in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, if all these internet platforms were around at that time. The Beatles, the Stones, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, whatever. The bands that are supergroups now, that have always been supergroups and always will be.
The legacy bands.
The legacy bands. How would they have managed it? How would it work for them?
Well, I mean, how would they have done it in the early days might have been a stretch. Difficult, But it's new ground. With every new social media platform, you're breaking new ground.
Yeah, I know. And I kind of sound a little bit bitter and resentful about it, but that's only because, it's probably just because I'm a product of the old school and I would have liked to have seen it stay old school. But, life moves on. The industry moves on. Technology moves. You just have to move with it. And if you don't move with it, you get left behind. And that's just how it is,
Unless you're already massive like Axl Rose.
Well, unless you're already massive, but they still have to play the game too. Most bands still have to play the game.
And you can make it fun.
You can, absolutely. You absolutely can make it fun.
It doesn't have to be work.
No, definitely not. You can make it fun, you can make it interesting, you can make it work for you, you can make it enjoyable. I'm
going to bring up something that I think you'll find really funny. There's a group on Facebook called, I think it's called The Local Band.
Okay.
Or like, that local band it's called, right? And so it's usually they just post things that are sort of, I think we'd find funny as sort of like the level we're at. So things like, it's big things coming when the band changes their profile picture.
Ooh. They're announcing a 4-day tour.
Yeah.
of the local county.
Yeah. And things like, I'm sorry we've been so quiet recently.
Yeah.
There's so many of these cliches that I hate. And this page is brilliant for all that stuff.
Are you going to share it to me?
Can I show it to you on this?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm well equipped to that.
Yeah, just a share screen. On your share screen part of the Zoom. And then add me and you can share it. And then it'll come up on the screen, we can all see it.
I don't actually know how to do that.
Oh my God. Are you telling me you're not tech savvy? I'm shocked.
No, I'm not on this. But anyway, we'll
read me out a few.
I'll read you out a few. Yeah. You sort of have to find the good stuff, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, a lot of people, like you say, it does make me laugh sometimes when a band that they've got, on any given night, if they're playing a show, 10 people are going to show up. But if you read their Facebook's post, it's like, they've got thousands and thousands of fans and followers, and it's like so meaningful. And you got to take your hat off and go, man, they're trying. They are trying. I'm never, ever going to knock anyone for trying.
100%.
So read me out one.
I should have prepared this before. There's a good comment here. It says, I went 17 years without changing the strings on one of my basses. Had an amazing dark tone. Currently on 8 years, hoping to recreate it.
Excellent.
But just, yeah. All the stuff, and pictures of, when you walk into a venue, it's just a tiny little stage.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. We talked about that last episode, didn't we?
Oh, my God.
Just the
I'm
stuff.
Sure there'll be plenty more small stages, I'm sure.
The stuff that you see all the time from bands on Facebook, where, like I say, where it's, we've been quiet lately, or,
hey, guys.
We've been keeping this one secret. Come back here at 6 p.m. for more information, People won't come back at 6 p.m. Just share the information.
Yeah,
just do it. Yeah. Or, you don't need to preempt a strike. Just
strike.
Yeah, strike.
Just fucking strike, man.
The iron will never be hot, unfortunately. So just do it.
You've got my attention now for the next 2.5 seconds. Get it out there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, and you don't know if you say, "Oh, we're going to release something at 6," you don't know who's going to see that. You're expecting every 1,000 people to see that, on your page. And then you're also expecting the 1,000 people to see it at 6 as well. Yeah. When it doesn't work like that.
Not really, no. Unless you're a band that haven't done anything for a while, that are a bigger band. Like if SDDC said we're releasing a new song at 6 o'clock.
That's different, yeah. Well, that's news, isn't it?
Exactly. But for Eddie and the Wolves or Blackwater Conspiracy, if we say we're releasing a song at 6 o'clock, people are going, and what?
Yeah, just release it. It doesn't matter.
I'm having a cup of tea at 6 o'clock. I'm making enough time.
Yeah. I think you're much better posting the song and then getting 20 of your mates to like it and share it. There are people in your life that you can hassle.
Yeah,
say,
of course.
Get on with this.
Yeah.
And then that'll eventually put it in more people's pages.
But it's the attention span. It's the attention span of people these days is not what it used to be. Because there's so much other stuff out there. That's why,
I find it weird. I find it weird that TV and music have sort of flip-flopped, because back in the day you'd buy a CD and you'd listen to the whole CD.
Yeah.
And you go, that was a great CD.
Mm.
But also back in the day when you get a TV show, you'd watch one episode a week because that's the only way you could watch it, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But now when a TV show comes out, you watch the whole thing. You watch the whole thing in one go and you go, that was good. And I've forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when an album comes out, you have to listen sort of one a week to get your head around it. Or that's the way we're releasing it at the minute, one a week or one every month or whatever.
Yeah. And there is some bands that do that though. There is some bands that release a song once a month.
Mm.
They're few and far between, but there are bands that do that. But
that's what we did in the first year of it.
Yeah,
we're releasing a song every couple of months.
But that was the way. That was probably due to because that's the only way you could do it. Maybe you didn't have enough money to record the album at that point and get it out there. We were $1 Million and Blackwater. Like I said, we're still old school insofar as. We have a bunch of songs and we wait to have them recorded on an album and then we put the album back. We play the songs at the show beforehand and see how they go and see how they work out and do people like them and they dig in the song or whatever. But we don't really drip feed. We kind of get it out in one go.
Yeah, like a big explosion rather.
Yeah.
You have to work hard to get the tail end of the explosion to keep.
It's very hard. You got to have all your ducks lined up and you got to have the plan.
Yeah,
My next album is going to be called The Plan.
The master plan.
So then after Instagram there was
after Instagram there was Vine, which was short-lived.
That passed me by.
6-second videos. That was it. You got 6 seconds.
Wow. Okay.
So then Instagram So where did Vivo fit in this? Oh, Bebo.
Vivo.
Oh, Vivo. I'm not too sure, but that's sort of connected with YouTube, isn't it?
Is it still a thing?
Yeah, I think they. Well, to be honest, I'm not too sure how they work, but I think they're like a company that works alongside the artist and YouTube.
Right. Okay.
Vine, short-lived, and then there was another thing called Musical.ly, which was a similar thing. You would have missed that.
Well. Yeah.
And then that turned into what we know now as TikTok.
Here's the thing about TikTok. So my brother is a marketing kind of guy, and about 5 years ago, he kind of keeps on top of all this kind of shit. And he called me up and says, you got to get your band on the TikTok. And I go, what?
You said 5 years ago?
Honestly, 5 years ago.
I think it's 2, 3 years ago, maybe.
Okay, well, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Way back. it seemed like a long time to me, but he called me up and he said, "You got to get your band on TikTok." I said, "Why?" He says, "TikTok is the next big thing." He says, "It's going to explode. It's going to help a lot of bands. Get your band on it." And I flat out ignored him. I thought he was talking shit. I thought it was like TikTok, another thing. No, nothing's ever going to replace Facebook. Nothing. But
look at it now.
How wrong can you be?
Billion active users.
Well, this is it. You know?
The thing I've found with TikTok is it's very easy to blow up a video, but you have to be throwing shit at the wall all the time.
But see, I'm not really a TikTok kind of dude. You know, I'm not an active user yet.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know how it works, to be fair.
Well, I mean, me and my wife do videos on it.
Well, I saw your videos.
Yeah. You know, just like maybe little covers or...
Yeah, your Van Halen thing is pretty damn good. I like
that. Oh, thanks very much.
Excellent.
But yeah, I mean, it's you either have fun with it and don't take it too seriously, or I think you have to take it really seriously and make it your life and do 5 videos a day. You know, and the thing is, they'll go out to a small number of people, and if they like it, it'll go to a bigger number of people, and it can just steamroll. So the Van Halen video you're talking about of me, I put it out, 10 likes, thought, okay, that's it, done. About, you know, that evening, I'd done it in the morning, that evening, I was putting a kid to bed, and Shah comes bursting and she says, have you seen your video? I said, no, what's happened? It's just got 10,000 views and 1,000 likes or whatever. So how is that possible? You know, how is it done that?
Well, number one, it was pretty good.
Thank you very much.
Number two, you could see that you weren't taking yourself seriously with the fucking headband thingy. That was hilarious. That's what made me watch it, though. It was like, okay, I'm going to see what this dude's all about.
Yeah.
I had saw that video before I'd actually spoken to you face to face. You know,
yeah.
And the only reason that I had saw you was because we happened to be in a bar and we saw you play.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I was actually looking for something on TikTok. And you come up, I don't know how it come up, but it come up. And it was so good. It was really good. And you've done a few other ones. You know, there's been...
I've done like Alice Cooper and AC/DC and stuff, yeah.
The thing that attracted me was you were doing stuff that I thought to myself, that guy's way too young to be doing shit like that. You know, you were doing songs that were from my era.
Yeah. But that's the stuff that got me into playing guitar, is that classic rock stuff. So
yeah.
Recently I did a couple of videos where do you remember the game Guitar Hero?
Yes.
That's part of the reason why I learned guitar was Guitar Hero.
That's a reason why a lot of guys learn guitar and girls learn guitar was through Guitar Hero. You know? So back in the day, that was a thing. You know, I actually know a few bands who got their songs on Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
If you got a song on Guitar Hero, again, that was worth its weight in gold. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Because kids were playing their shit. And there was a song by a band called, was it Dragon Force?
Yeah, that's right. Through the Fire and Flames. Yeah.
Like that was the thing. That was like Guitar Hero level 10. You know?
Yeah.
So
well,
if you're able to play that from Guitar Hero, it was like, wow.
That's the thing. I had my brother's guitar and I started learning all the riffs from the thing. So in this video I did on TikTok, it was, how many riffs can I remember, 15 years later?
Yes.
Sort of thing. And I did quite a few, to be honest. I still knew, load of the old stuff, like, whatever was on there. I can't remember, but if I pull the list up, we're talking about a game that was released in like 2005.
Yeah.
And all the songs are from like the 80s and 70s and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah. All the good stuff.
So Queens of the Stone Age, Sex Pistols, Heart, Slipknot, Santana, Rage Against the Machine, Smashing Pumpkins, a lot of like 90s stuff here as well.
Yeah.
Pearl Jam, Slash, Tom Morello, Block Party, Muse, ZZ Top, Tenacious D, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Rolling Stones, Black Sabbath, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the reasons why you want to play guitar, isn't it? Those guys.
Yeah. And those guys, some people would say, well, I'm not really into those. I'm not really into that band. I'm into Arcade Fire. I'm into this and the other band, without realizing that Arcade Fire and bands like that were influenced by Sabbath and whatever. I remember hearing an interview with Two Door Cinema Club, and they were saying, oh yeah, we started learning Metallica when we were young. Yeah.
So how do you go from Metallica to, plinky plonky indie songs? There's obviously a way, isn't there?
Yeah, well, you find what you're good at and you stick with it,
Yeah, but
it's okay loving Slipknot and loving Metallica and loving Iron Maiden, but there is only one Metallica, there is only one Iron Maiden. You're never going to batter that,
But you can learn a lot from it and take
absolutely, of course you can, absolutely. I'm heavily influenced by Aerosmith and AC/DC, but that's it. It's only an influence. You'll never be. You're never going to get to that level. You're never going to write songs of that ilk.
Well, you nearly did get to that level, didn't you?
Well, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But so then after Instagram, we went to where are we at now? Yeah.
Well, we're at TikTok now, so we're at the present.
What about Spotify?
Well, Spotify, I wouldn't class as social media until now, because I believe they've started changing things. Spotify have.
Have they really?
So Spotify is changing its sort of structure a bit, and it will become more of a social media platform. So I mean, right now it's a YouTube kind of thing, isn't it? You put your music on there, and just sort of maybe wait to see if it's doing well.
Yeah.
But I believe that they are changing things on Spotify where they'll have sort of their own sharing platform for you to share photos and videos and things like that.
Yeah, but is it going to be in favor of the artist or in favor of Spotify?
Well, do you think Facebook's in favor of the artist or in favor of Facebook?
Well, all these businesses are in favor of themselves.
Yeah.
But Spotify are the main culprit, for not paying a reward to the artist. That's why a lot of bands didn't, Taylor Swift, Adele. A lot of those bands refused to have their music on Spotify for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a very big user base. So if you're going to say, I don't want my stuff on Spotify for something that basically costs nothing to get your songs on Spotify, you got
to weigh up the options. So you look at it from the point of view of, okay, so Spotify, I'm going to put my music on Spotify, and potentially there's thousands of people who will hear my music and share my music to more people. Or you refuse to put your music on Spotify and print your CDs and sell them from your website, sell them at shows, whatever. What is the biggest gain here? And, what is going to be most beneficial to you as an artist? I pose the question to you. It doesn't affect me either way now because I'm the tail end of the career kind of thing, whereas you're just getting going.
I would have to say, if you're not involved in everything, then you're not taking advantage of everything.
Yeah. Get left behind.
Yeah. And for years, me and my friends were all happy to put our music on SoundCloud. It seems to be only recently that this topic's come up that Spotify don't pay their artists well and things like that.
Here's the thing, Ed. Here's the thing, though. You're in a kind of a relatively fortunate position that you get your own studio. You record your own music. You don't have to pay a studio to record your music. You can do it yourself. You're well savvy in it all, so that's good. And a lot of younger kids are that way inclined as well. A lot of people do have their stuff. You can record an album in your bedroom. Doesn't mean you should, but you can, right? So the actual creative process is not a laborious task anymore to end up with the product that you can put on Spotify or any of the sharing platforms or whatever. So that's not the problem. But your time and energy's got into that, and surely you want rewarded in some way. If you want to sustain a career, it's okay saying, well, I can record my own music and put it on sharing platforms or whatever. I'm not going to make any money of it. That's fine. But that's not going to pay your bills.
Yeah, I did see recently how many plays you'd have to make minimum wage, and it's like $1 million a month or something.
Oh yeah.
Per month. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't share your music. What I'm saying is that artists should be rewarded for their art.
Should they? Does anyone owe them anything?
No.
If I paint a picture, am I instantly, do I instantly need gratification for that picture? It's the same thing. I mean, if you're going to
I disagree. I don't think it's the same thing at all, because you're creating something that you're putting out on the ether. Okay. If you want to buy a painting, you can buy a painting if you want to, right? But putting your music out, people access that music whether you want it or not accessed. It's going to get accessed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You'd only put it on for it to be accessed, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. But how do you sustain that, though? Can you build a career from that?
You just have to think of it as more of like the Spotify is. Yeah, Spotify is a great big poster outside your window to a billion people that says, listen to my music.
So having said that then, so how does an artist, because, you've got bills to pay. Everyone's got bills to pay. You've got kids to feed. You've got a wife to take care of. You've got a mortgage to pay for. You've got car payment. You have this, you have that, and the other, right? So if you're giving your music, it takes time and energy to record your music. It takes a lot of time to do it. It takes the creative process to write a song, to record the song, to put the song out there. That takes a certain amount of time, okay? So you have to find a way of being able to hold down a regular job to pay all your other bills. Whereas back in the day, when people actually physically paid for your music, that was your job.
Yeah, you could sustain.
Yeah. You were able to pay your life, you were able to pay your bills. Whereas now, it's very, very difficult for a musician to make a living from. I was just reading today, for instance. I was reading today about a band. I think they were called Dead Man Ritual. It was Matt Sorum, Geezer Butler, Stevie Stevens from Billy Idol's band or whatever. And they put a band together, Deadline. So I actually knew one of the guys, the guitar tech for Geezer, I knew him pretty well. But that band, it disappeared after a few shows. And the reason was because they were going out, after Black Sabbath had finished and all the rest of it, they were going out on not the bottom level, but mid-level, right? And they didn't want to be staying in crappy hotels anymore. They didn't want to be, traveling in a van when they've been used to traveling in tour buses and airplanes and whatever in 5-star hotels, right? But because they knew they weren't going to be making any money from sales from their records, they had to do the shows like every other band does. But it's obviously, yes, coronavirus interfered with that. Of course it did. But they were saying that, no one at that time, no one now wanted to go back 15 steps from where they had been all their career because they'd built it up and all the rest. And that's just the reality. There was no real money in the music business anymore. There really isn't, So until there's some way that an artist can be rewarded for their creativity in a financial way so they can dedicate their life to it, so that they can pay their bills, their everyday bills, it's going to be very difficult. I think that's where the internet kind of ruined things.
Yeah. I think there are ways to get over that now. And I think something like an angel investor might be good. I mean, I know a few people who've had a similar thing where they basically met an older bloke who has, they've accumulated their fortune over the years.
Yes.
And they're happy to, funnel money into a young band because they think they've got something.
Yeah. And how's that young artist? Is their investor getting their money back?
Yeah, well, I've seen it happen, a couple of times.
But you do realize, you do appreciate that a record label was effectively an angel investor.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, yeah, yes and no. Yeah.
Well, the difference is, though, a record label had the infrastructure for a musician, period.
Yeah.
They had all the, the promoters, the journalists, the PR people, all, maybe under the one umbrella even. So whereas an angel investor, unless I'm coming from a music background and not just an investor as in like a Dragon's Den type thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. I'm just wondering, where is the next Iron Maiden coming from? Where is the next Lady Gaga coming from? Where is these Amy Winehouse? Where are these people going to come from?
Yeah.
If they don't have the vehicle to be able to sustain it, to do it full time.
It depends. I think a more interesting question would be, where's the new independent artist going to be coming from? Where's the next Oasis? Yes. Where's the next Arctic Monkeys going to be coming from? Because they're the guys who sign to small, tiny labels that don't have, the wedge to give them up front.
Yeah, but those smaller labels. You see, this is the thing as well. I find this down through my career too. Though that a smaller label is probably better than the bigger labels anyway.
Yeah.
Creation, the record label of your man. What was his name? Alan. That discovered Oasis.
Oh, is it Alan Raw?
Can't remember what his name is.
Alan Woolley, is it?
No. But anyway, his label was Creation. They were a really small independent label. But, they turned in a huge label because of Oasis.
Yeah, or Sony will come and buy them out or something like that.
That's the thing. Whereas I know that. Yeah, I know a band, we both know a band, who are still independent, who got money thrown at them by Atlantic and they refused to sign to Atlantic Records because they knew what would happen. And now they're probably one of the most successful cult bands there's ever been, you know? But that's the story for another day.
Well,
but Spotify, you reckon, is changing then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be the money maker. I mean, I think it's always going to be the most money is in doing the shows, really. I know that's where I get my real money from, you know.
And that's where most bands get their money from these days is touring and merchandise. You know, record labels ended up coming up with a deal that they were hoping maybe would circumnavigate the internet, a 360 deal, where everything was tied in, merchandise, and touring money, everything. But again, that's a kind of a catch-22 as well. But like you say, if you can remain independent, successfully put your music out, successfully get an audience, and be able to sustain that to the point where it's paying for itself, that's probably the best you can hope for these days. You know, and that's where social media platforms will work for you to spread your wings and get your music out there. Yeah,
but don't. Work on your live show more than your Facebook, I think.
It's always been that way, though. You know, you can, if you come to see a band at a show and you've been listening to them for ages on Spotify, Facebook, whatever it is, and you go and you listen to them and they sound nothing like what you sound on record, on a recorded platform, it's very disappointing. You know, so you got to have the songs, you got to have the show, and you got to be able to play your instrument. I know a lot of people use backing tracks, and I get that as well. You know,
we'll close this with maybe some advice, and I think my biggest advice is be different on social media. Whatever anyone else is doing, do the opposite. Or do something completely different. You know, and never ever write, I know we've been quiet recently, or anything of that ilk. Just you know, make a statement.
So having said that, so on the next episode, we're hoping to have maybe a guest or two.
We might start bringing in some people.
And we were only doing this over Skype tonight because of COVID and stuff, but next time we'll be in the same room and we'll have our guest maybe on Skype.
It depends who our first guest is going to be. Whether they are in this country or not would change things. Well,
hopefully they'll be not in this country, which means they'll be a bigger name. You know? Anyway, my friend, I will bid you a fond farewell.
It's been good talking to you. I hope you are uncooped. When are you stopping isolation?
2 days, 3 days, I think it is.
Okay.
I'm still testing positive at the moment, so we got to wait and see.
We shall reconvene next Sunday in person then.
Absolutely.
Great.
All right, man.
And as usual, if you have any horror stories of social media or anything that's worked for you, let us know.
Leave it in the comment section below.
Great.
Is there anything you want to ask? Put it in the comment section below. Like and share. I know we've been quiet for a while. All right, Ed.
All right, mate. Great to talk to you.
Talk to you soon.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.